pace is dropped on another week of Soccer Down Here, Soccer's morning show. Jon Here, you there. Thanks for hanging out with us. Fairly busy morning ropes. Fairly busy week. Well, let's go through the traffic now that I've got my my brain fixed to it. Today, you get this. It's almost going to be like Bart Palooza this week. Morning, Tom. Morning, Kepsy. Because of what happened over the weekend and what's going to be happening in the midweek, Bart is shunning the real world, and he's going to be joining us a couple times this week. Morning, Alex. Bart will be on in the 10 o'clock hour this morning to talk about the women's national team and their 2-0 win, Trinity Rodman with a brace. And we'll get into that a little bit as they're getting ready for their trip to Australia and New Zealand for the World Cup. And we'll also talk about the Gold Cup in hour number 2 with Bart. Once again, Bart's going to hop on at 10 o'clock. We'll talk Gold Cup. We'll talk about all of that stuff. And yes, Tom, absolutely true. If last night proved one thing, CONCACAF, gonna CONCACAF. And there's so much to get into, and there might even be some reffing down here that we get into with Bart coming up in hour number 2. Obviously, to set things up with the semifinals, that means that Bart will come on in his traditional 10:30 spot on Wednesday morning and then come on Thursday. And I've got a homework assignment for Bart for Thursday to get us ready for the Gold Cup final. So Monday, 10 o'clock, Wednesday, 10:30. And who knows? We may just shake things up and have Bart run leadoff on Thursdays, but we'll figure it out. But well, actually, with he might have to be hour number 2 again because we got midweek whip around coming on Wednesday with Atlanta in Foxborough taking on the New England Revolution. So we got that. Obviously, Bam. I think Atlanta United fans are pretty strong. They're doing pretty well after what happened on the weekend. Obviously, the win for Atlanta United on the road in Montreal, tough place to play, great defensive effort, and that's pretty much where we're going to spend hour number 1. What you guys want to talk about in MLS and with Atlanta United, we'll go through all of this, the numbers according to our friends at SofaScore, break everything down. And we will get your thoughts on it. So line them all up in the queue when it comes to Atlanta United, Major League Soccer, and the news of the morning. And 10:30 is when we'll get into the news of the morning, where we'll get into the second bid for Harry Kane. And Ange Postecoglou has said, yeah, thanks, no thanks. So we'll get into all of the news of the morning and things like that. And with Bart, there will be some stupidity down here in addition to possibly reffing down here and Soccer for US POD material. So looking at all of that stuff. So once again, that's all there. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and at kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. And use the code SoccerDownHere15. Thanks to everyone who has so far. You can get 15% off of your purchases when it comes to Kickoff Coffee. And then from there, it is them taking 10%, rolling it over into youth initiatives and very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So this morning, I was buzzing through video from the weekend. And I mean, this is something that is just, as someone who is an individual that shares a roof with an animal, I thought this was cool, and I'm hoping that there's more of it. But you're hoping that the animals attached, if there are larger attendances, don't freak out in a situation like this. I don't know if you saw it in the NWSL over the weekend. It was in San Diego for the NWSL game, and you had the players for the Wave come out holding animals. Had them come holding, I think it was a lot of puppies that needed to be adopted. So can we have more of that, please? More of that, where and the dogs seemed pretty docile, which to me was kind of a shock. I mean, you have all of the when you've got all of folks surrounding you and everything. But as the San Diego players are walking out and they got the puppies right there and everything. And I'd like to see more of that. I know that we have in minor league parks and things, you're going to bark at the park where you bring dogs and things like that, but they're already yours. So can we please have more adoption scenarios with dogs, cats, animals, whatever, when it comes to our matches and our public sporting events? Like I said, I just thought it was cool, and the fact that the dogs were completely and totally in control in the arms of the San Diego Wave players. Credit to all of the dogs. Yes, it would. It would be great, Bam, if the Wave paid for the adoption fees for the dogs. I think that'd be pretty strong too. But so I think we've set the bar. So what we need to have more pet adoption events at soccer matches. Like I said, it was a really cool visual where you have all these puppies that are just going out and you're hoping that they get adopted and you're waiving adoption fees. But don't let it just be puppies. You know that there are dogs that have been in shelters for years and they're seniors. There are seniors and there are those that have been in adoption centers for quite some time that need those homes as well. So if you're going to do it, don't just make it puppies. Make it seniors, all these kinds of things. So make sure that all of that is a part of it if it's going to go down. So, that was where like I said, that was where my head was last night when it came to the the moment of the weekend when it came to San Diego and pet adoptions and things like that. And Ropes, we'll get into this too. Ropes has posted the video. Yeah, and that's Bam, that's stupidity down here in hour number 2. Unless my patience really wears thin and I talk about it already. So Ropes has linked to a video, and this might end up being just a blend this morning, the way things are shaking out. But 2 to NA had video from inside the tunnel at TQL after the match where it appeared that Dane St. Clair, as I'm sitting here watching, and it's a long video too, Dane St. Clair had to be separated from USM&T players. Security is like Kevin Bacon in Animal House. And first off, as both teams, Matt Turner acting as peacemaker. Yes, Ricky, we're going to get into that too. Saw that. So Sean Johnson acting as peacemaker, separating keepers from one another. Security is there. So, that's the video on CONCACAF. So they're going down the tunnel last night. And I don't know why you're sending them down the tunnel at the same time, considering how heated the match is in general and how heated the relationship is. Just ask John Herdman about it. And you end up with shock players having a to-do in the tunnel. I'm going to watch it again. I mean, Ropes, thank you for posting. And all right, let's see if we can figure it out here. It's a minute and a half long, but it's a couple of different pieces of video. So U.S. players are walking into the entranceway and supposedly down toward their locker room. Canada players who once again at the same time, why? It's an early round of stupidity down here. Why is it that security, and like I said, I'm sitting here watching, security's just kind of standing around going, what? Why in the wide world of sports are the players, it was a to-do and a tete-a-tete, Tom. Why, in the first place? are both teams walking down the tunnel simultaneously. After the match being what it was, yeah, this is an early round of stupidity down here, no question. Why? Why are they walking down the tunnel at the same time? Don't do that, people. You can't do that. And so, as we said, Sean Johnson acting peacemaker, Matt Turner acting peacemaker, Dane St. Clair having to be pulled away from everybody. But that's what Ropes posted in the Twitch pitch. First and foremost, security. What are you doing? What are you doing? Everybody's running down the aisle at the same time. Why? Why? You're hoping that CONCACAF just kind of sits there and goes, okay, it was a to-do with some what furs being exchanged. Let it happen. No further fines, suspensions, anything. It just looked like some jostling. It just looks like some jostling there. But biggest thing for me, why are you letting the players go down the tunnel from both teams at the same time? Why? You don't do that after a heated game, because then you get more heated reactions in an enclosed space, and that never goes well. Well, that was your security last night in Cincinnati. Like I said, Bart will come in. Alex has no video evidence, but is 97% sure it was Miazga's fault. Yeah, Miazga. So Alex, you're basically saying that Matt Miazga got caught trying to go sideways down the tunnel and didn't quite get the step back in time. So, yes, Miazga's a known instigator, according to Coco. And but I mean, it will be awesome if the final is USA Mexico. We're down to the Final Four. It is Jamaica, Mexico, Panama, and the U.S. Like I said, that's on Wednesday, San Diego, and so it'll be a late night for everybody. And so we'll get that figured out. But security, you got to do better. You absolutely got to do better. Gotta do better. It sounds like a country song. So, yeah, so we get that. So there's stupidity down here, and Bam mentioned the lead story in one of the lead stories in The Guardian, where, in the Telegraph, where you have Dutch and Spanish players mocking the haka, doing it on their reels on Instagram and things like that. So suffice to say, that's not going over well, nor should it. We'll talk about that coming up in hour number 2, and plenty of other things that are on the board. And I know that a lot of you early this morning have seen the news that came out just as the show started, actually, where it is officially official that Franco Ibarra has been loaned to Toronto for the remainder of the 23 season in exchange for $50,000 in GAM. Atlanta retains Ibarra's contract rights beyond the season. It's a couple of years after that. And so it's officially official. And I know that we talked about it a lot last week, and I know that you guys are still having comments on it in the Twitch pitch. So once again, it's just officially official after everything that we talked about late last week. So now we know the destination, and obviously everybody knows, everybody has their feelings on it. Like I said, we talked about it last week, but it's now officially official. Alex, with you have to be, getting back to the haka really quickly. You've got to be dead inside not to get haka goosebumps. One of the best responses, and this instead of instead of making fun of it, so I guess I'm addressing stupidity down here early. Let me post the link for those of you that is, for those of you that haven't had the chance to see it. There's your link in the Twitch pitch. Spain and Holland decided to mock the haka and do it on tape. 4 Spain players, and this is from our friend Tom Gary over at the Telegraph. 4 Spain players imitating the traditional ceremonial Maori war dance, and this is Tom's words, has been branded disrespectful by floods of fans online. The video has since been deleted. A similarly critical reaction to a post on the official Instagram account of the Netherlands team, which showed multiple players, including their captain, Sharita Spitza, seeming to poke fun at the haka. That's also been taken down from the Reels section of their Instagram page. Spain and the Netherlands, based on the North Island of New Zealand for the upcoming tournament. They're in Group C and E. Rugby teams representing New Zealand have been performing the haka before international fixtures since at least 1888. The Royal Spanish Football Federation and the Royal Dutch Football Association have both been contacted for a response by the Telegraph. FIFA announced that indigenous flags of Australia and New Zealand will be on display during the World Cup. Gianni Infantino had 2 sentences that were placed in the article in the Telegraph. FIFA is going to feature English and traditional First Nation translation of each host city and place name in use for the event. Very cool there. Not very cool from Holland and Spain to be disrespectful of the haka there. One of the best responses I ever saw. And I'm one of those guys that will go down rabbit holes. I know that shocks you. But on YouTube, you sit there and you can do like All Blacks haka or something like that. And it'll give a big list of them. One of the best responses, I want to say, yes, exactly, Alex. Today I feel haka, quoting Gianni Infantino. One of the best responses, I think it was in the 2011 Rugby World Cup. It was in the early 2010s. And I think they were playing France. And all you saw as New Zealand was doing their haka, the France team basically started to get closer and closer and closer. You know how most teams will sit there and in the setting of the welcome and the introductions, especially in the Rugby World Cup setting, they'll be at center circle and they'll kind of work their way around the arc. And one team will be around one half, the other team will be around the other half. And it's on the back sides as you're staring at each other. Then New Zealand breaks off, and then they'll do their haka for about, I think it's like a minute 20. And it's gorgeous. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. But the French team, to show that they were not intimidated by it, Bam, if that's it, that's awesome. Thank you. The French team decided that they were going to basically walk from the edge of center circle on their half and come as close to center line as possible, stand in a line, not cross center line, but stand in a line as close to center line as they could to show that they weren't intimidated. They were just like, they went from center circle, came together as a group, walked towards center line, and basically let New Zealand do their haka right in front of them. It's one of the best responses you could have ever seen in an electric environment to start with. Then you have what the France team does, and thank you, Bam, for finding it as quickly as you did. Your fingers are faster than mine. That's how you respond to something like that. With respect and the idea that you're ready to go. That's how you respond. You don't respond with stupidity down here and mock it. and be disrespectful. Frankly, I'm fairly certain now that after this is now out there, you're going to have a lot of neutrals and teams against that are going against Spain and the Netherlands, rooting against Spain and the Netherlands now because they were stupid and disrespectful. I mean, seriously, what makes you think that doing something like that is A, cool, and B, something you should do? Hey, you know what? Let's make fun of something that our host countries do as a part of their tradition. That's fantastic. That's great judgment. What in the world are you thinking? I take it back. You weren't. Bam with viewing choices. Yeah, go watch Tonga, New Zealand, Fiji, Tonga. Yeah, absolutely. And so Bam, as a public service, has given us the France response to the All Blacks in the World Cup from about a decade ago. See, now, Alex, I think I've seen that. Alex says there's video going around of a wedding haka. That's gorgeous. But why? But why? Just why do you think the initial response? Why did you think that the initial response that you should do was make fun of something? And that's something that not just in this case, but it happens a lot these days, where the first response in a situation like this for something that we don't know is to lash out and make fun. If we don't understand something, it's to lash out and make. It's like when we were all in. It's like you're being in high school all over again. You see the kid. You see the quiet, shy kid who wears the same T-shirt and jeans, 3 times a week, and your instant response is to make fun of the kid when we're in high school. That kind of a thing. You end up with these kinds of things happening, and your initial response is to make fun of it instead of take the time to understand. And you would think that with it being as ingrained as it is in the sports culture in Polynesia, Micronesia, and Australia, New Zealand, that you'd know it by now. This is a part of their fabric. It's a part of who they are. Yet your first response for something that you do not understand is to mock it. It happens in a lot of other things too. But in this particular case, the first idea to mock something like that, and then you make fun of it, and you do stupid things like we're seeing with Spain and Holland. I would hope that when the Spanish national team and the Dutch national team make their way to Australia, New Zealand, that they learn about the culture down there. I would hope that there's time in between matches where they're taken to places where they can understand what's going on. Like I said, the initial idea these days, instead of understanding something and understanding it's a part of the fabric of something, you make fun of it, you mock it instead of understanding. So there you go. All right, that was opening kickoff. It took a couple different directions, but I know, shocking that it does. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. And don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. Thanks to everybody who does. You get 15% off your purchase. Helps out Kickoff Coffee a great deal. And then they, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth initiatives and youth games that they are close to and that they are associated with. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I know a lot of you have been talking about the Ibarra loan and the situation and the four U22s. And I know that Tom has questions, and I know Dunga's put in some legwork, and there's a lot of thoughts that are associated with what's going on. What we do know is that the Mosqueda loan was mutually terminated. What we don't know is the reason why. I mean, if he's not getting playing time and it's not beneficial to the team, to Defensa y Justicia, and it's like Mosqueda's taking up a roster spot for whatever reason. Things don't work out, and so you mutually agree to terminate the loan. And then you're trying to figure out, okay, what can we do? And it ends up being a Franco Ibarra loan out for the rest of the season. And Doug Robertson at the AJC said that he has found out in his investigations that players finding out the morning of in a situation like that, it's fairly normal. So obviously, Franco's disappointed, and it is unfortunate, as Dunga says. It's an unfortunate circumstance. It's a loan. It's only for the end of the year. 6-month loan, according to Carlos when he was asked about it last week. And I want to double check how many more years Franco has left on his contract. I want to say it's through 25. So let's see. Contract. Once again, from our friends at Transfermarkt. Looking through here. Brennan Barry. Okay, I think Franco's is for another couple of years. I think it's through 25, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's just for the remainder of this season. After 6 months, then he's eligible to return. And so I know that. And Tom, I think that rookie 26, 25, 26, definitely. That's what I'm hearing. And Tom's point, like I said, there's a lot we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. So operating with everything that we have at face value, Tom says he's going to assume the reason Ibarra was told so late was because the front office was working to the last minute, trying to find a way to get rid of one of the other three guys. Yeah, and I mean I think that's a fairly safe assessment. Is that you're trying to figure out, okay, where is interest? There is interest, and then if there is an interest in three, whomever the three are, then the fourth one is the one that you're stuck with, and then there you go. So, and that's the thing, Tom. I think that you're spot on here. Is that they're working until the absolute last moment to try to figure out a solution, and when they are forced to make the solution of it ending up being Ibarra, then that's just how it ended up. All right, so Atlanta United. Let me go back to our friends at SofaScore here. So, big win over the weekend, and I know that I don't know how many of you were watching, but it was once again a tremendous defensive effort from the guys, and you end up going in at a plus 190, and you end up getting the win 1-0. Your lineup in this one: Wiley, Abram, Juanjo Purata, Ronald Hernandez, Brooks Lennon. Midfield of Thiago, Santi, Sejdic, Tyler Wolff, and then Miguel Berry up top. So something 5-4-1-ish perhaps. Something in that vein. Numbers, Thiago Almada with the yellow card had a 7.8. Santi Sosa, who did really well. And once again, when Santi Sosa is, 100% healthy, that's the Santi Sosa performance that you're looking for. Santi Sosa had a 7.3. Brooks had a 7.0. Juanjo Purata had a 7.1. Luis Abram had a 7. And this is the Luis Abram that, once again, you're getting playing time with Luis Abram at the back. And I think that this is the Vélez Luis that you're looking at, and not the Cruz Azul Luis Abram. And, remember when initially a lot of folks were saying that Abram was untouchable at Vélez Sarsfield. And then he gets there were others in that back at Vélez Sarsfield that folks were having to be interested in instead of Abram. Abram goes to Cruz Azul, doesn't do as well. Atlanta grabs him from Cruz Azul. And I think that right now, once regular playing time is getting there with Luis Abram, healthy and regular playing time, and you're seeing all of this with him. So that's what you're getting right now out of Luis Abram at the back. Numbers for Luis: 90 minutes, 4 clearances, 3 picks, a tackle, 2 for 3 on his ground duels. Lost his only aerial duel. Was fouled once, 54 touches, 74% passing at 29 of 39. Had a long ball completion that was in there as well. And don't know, Tom. Tom's asking the question, so who's odds man out when Miles comes back? Don't know. But I think, if it's, but I think also a lot of it depends on the moves that you make for the remainder of the window. And you're looking at if this is going to be a formation that you're going to have going forward. And it may change with opponents and things like that. So, Dr. D, we'll get into that in hour number 2. I think that what you're looking at, I would look at this almost literally situationally. Your opponent does X, therefore you need to approach it how? With Philly, 4-4-2, and like I said, this is one of the things that has always stuck with me. One of the first things that Jason basically plowed into my brain when it comes to formations and approach. Always have one more in defense than they do in attack. So for Philly, as an example, 4-4-2 diamond. 4-4-2, 2, ergo 3. And that's why you had 3-5-2, 5-3-2, 5-3-1-1, whatever you want to phrase it as. So you're looking at always having, just as a byline, just as a guidepost, one more in defense than they do in attack. So three center backs, or 3, defending as center backs. So you could have a 6 drop back and have it be that third, plus your 2 wings. So staring at that, you're looking at, okay, how many guys at the back do I need? Then do I move, am I confident enough in the guys that I have on the edges if I need to move one of them up to the wing? Then you have, and like I said, and this also comes at you formationally too. Say late in a match, even if you were to sit there and sit Luis or Ronald, you're starting Miles, then you also have the depth of going to the bench and bringing in Luis Abram, or going to the bench and bringing in a Ronald Hernandez either for the left or the right-hand side if you need that depth late. So there's nothing wrong with being, say, odd man out when Miles comes back, because you're given the opportunity to bring in fresh legs, insert them into that situation at the back line when you need them to close out a match. So I would look at things formationally A, game by game B, and then the fact that you've had Abram have these reps and do really well. The fact that you've had Ronald do these reps and do very well. Then when Miles comes back from Gold Cup duty, you've got that depth that you're looking at, especially as you're chasing, say, and I know earmuffs for some, if you're chasing after something deep in a Leagues Cup run. Also, if you're chasing after a home playoff game late in the year in the MLS schedule, and you get back to that in September, you've got that depth there to help you. So I think the fact that you're finding out what a healthy Luis Abram can give you and what a Ronald Hernandez can give you only helps you out long-term at the back line to help you out in all of these different scenarios that you could have going forward. So you look at those numbers, and that's where you are with the folks at the back. And I mean, you're looking at Brooks, who had a 7 with a goal. And, Brooks, once again, 90 minutes, 20 of 25 passing on 46 touches. Had a cross, had a long ball. 1 of 4 on ground duels, won both of his aerial duels. So 3 of 6 total. It was 7 clearances for Brooks. 7 defensive clearances. And once again, I think it speaks well to what we saw from Atlanta United defensively, going after a lead and keeping a lead and making sure that Montreal wasn't going to be in a situation at home to get that equalizer. I mean, Jonathan Sirwak came up big at points. And, you had Amar Sejdic continuing to do well. Caleb Wiley had a 6.6, but you look at Caleb's numbers. I don't get into Amar's numbers coming up in just a bit. 38 touches for Caleb, 18 of 24 passing at 75%. 1-2 ground duels, 1 an aerial duel, fouled once. 5 interceptions for Caleb Wiley on Saturday night. 5 interceptions. Once again, that gets into hopping into passing lanes and anticipation. Amar Sejdic, we've talked about the kind of season that he's had, making it difficult for folks to have him sit. But knowing after Montreal, the lineup in New England could be interesting. That's the word I'll use. 43 touches for Amar Sejdic, 32 of 37 passing for Amar. Two long balls in 3 attempts, 1 a ground duel. 1 block, 1 tackle, 2 dribbles passed. A couple of other guys I wanted to look at in the lineups really quickly. Tyler Wolf had a bit of a rough night, punched a 6.4. But, then you get coming in off the bench. You had Jay Fortune come in, give you 20. Machop Cho came in, gave you 20. Hosechu for Sejdic came in and gave you 10. Ozzy came in at the end to shut the door. And I think that's what you're getting at with Ozzy. You want to have somebody in late that's going to absolutely slam the door. Morning, Abby. When you have that opportunity. Did you guys see that there were 5 red cards on the weekend in Major League Soccer? I just noticed that. But, so the lineup for Atlanta against Montreal, and they came back after the match, and so it wasn't staying up there the whole time. They actually made it out of the Northeast Corridor, came home, and then they're going to fly up, I'm guessing, tomorrow. But, yeah, your lineup, Barry, well, let's go from the back. So, Wiley, Abram, Purata, Ronald, Brooks. Basically almost like a box midfield with Thiago, Tyler, Sejdic, and Sosa, and then Miguel Berry up top. So it's kind of 5-4-1-ish. So the lineup for New England, and New England will not have Latif Blessing because Blessing got a red card. 4-4-2. Sweat, Romney, Farrell, Brandon By at the back. Bayraktarovich, who had a rough night. We know him from his time at Revs 2 here on the SDH network. Latif Blessing had a rough night. He had a 5.8, got the red card. Polster and Emmanuel Boateng. Bobby Wood, Gustavo Bo. So with Bobby Wood and Gustavo Bo, you're probably going to be trotting out the same formation again. It's probably going to be that 5-4-1 or 5-3-2, 5-4-1, whatever. But you're going to have three center backs in some form going up against New England midweek. In whatever form that looks like, it's probably what you're staring at. So what did Matt Turner do, Tom? What did Matt Turner do? Do I want to know what Matt Turner did? Okay. I will read it in my foghorn leghorn voice, apparently. Of course. Okay. All right. So here we go. Let me see if I can find some appropriate music, Tom. Hang on just a second. Let me see if there's anything that I can put in that's fairly emotional here. Let's search for some music. No. No, that's too 80s. Can't do rock. We know what that is. That's the same thing. No. We need better music. No, can't do that one. No. No, there doesn't seem to be any appropriate music. Okay, for the record, I need to get better music. All right, so for something like this, yes. Yeah, no music is appropriate. So here we go. Dearest Father, the rat and northern neighbors attacked directly. I saw to the defense myself. No concessions will be levied whilst I am in command. May they hurry north, tails tucked firmly betwixt their hindquarters. Glory steadfast. MT. Yeah, about right. Yes. Soccer's version of the Andrew Luck tweets at CAPT Captain Matt Turner. Matt Turner's Rebellion. Yeah, the rat and northern neighbors attacked directly. Saw to the defense myself. No concessions will be levied whilst I'm in command. Exactly. I tried to do the like the foghorn leghorn. The Yankees are in Chattanooga. May they hurry north, tails tucked firmly betwixt their hindquarters, glory and steadfast. So, yes, Matt Turner's Rebellion. Very, very nice. Well done. So, yikes. So there's that. Never can have enough of Matt Turner and Matt Turner's Rebellion. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, think of your lineups just off the top of your head. You're probably going to have Jay Fortune start. You're probably going to have Machope start. You're probably going to flip the names and numbers, minutes. Jay's probably going to start. Chop's probably going to start. Maybe Ozzie gets a start. Noah Cobb, Abe McFadden, Derek Etienne Jr., Mosqueda, who is available for selection. It'll be there, but, I mean, you're looking at everybody else who played 90. Yeah, Miguel Berry. Miguel Berry played a full. Tiago played a full. Like I said, Tyler played 70. He's probably going to be the inverse of Jay Fortune. Caleb played full. Sadich played what? Sadich played 80. Caleb played 70. Did Santi give you everything and you're not going to have him start? Probably going to have Brooks start. See what the physio staff says about Abram Purata and Ronald Hernandez. So we'll see what it looks like there in the midweek. But yeah, on Wednesday, we'll have the midweek whip around. Patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. Dr. D's been warming up to Barry. Sure, he isn't scoring, but he's creating opportunities and his movement has been improving. And that's just reps and understanding that while Barry is not Gigi. Where Gigi wants to run in behind and be active and be that target, Barry wants to run off, and he wants to kind of create to open up the middle by comparisons. So you've got that. David, Barry looked pretty good for much of the contest, but went Etienne and started throwing himself to the ground late, begging for fouls, needed to tough out some of those challenges with his size. Yes, Ropes, we didn't need the violin from the Civil War documentary. Something like that, no question. Absolutely. Yes, Hutch. It is absolutely. That's kind of what I was getting at. Was a foghorn leghorn kind of a deal. But yes, the Yankees are in Chattanooga. That one. Yes, Will. Hunt City, most goals scored against OCB. And thank you for softening OCB up. I'm sure the Atlanta United 2 fans are happy about that. Because next up for Atlanta United 2, next weekend, next Sunday, is a match at Osceola Heritage Park against OCB. Hunt City with a big win, 6-2 over OCB as OCB was on the road. And things seem to be kind of settling down a little bit for Hunt City after their first 7 on the road before they could go to Joe Davis and have standing room only crowds. But yeah, big win for Huntsville, and the Twos fans, thank you for softening up the OCB side before next Sunday. It was a rough rough afternoon for Atlanta United 2 yesterday. 2 goals in about 2 minutes from Patrick Ajimong, and Crown Legacy had a 2-0 lead. But then second half, Luke Brennan scored, and you can go back and listen to the full match on the SDH network. And Luke Brennan scores to make it 2-1, but then Crown Legacy comes back down to score to make it 3-1. 3-1 was the final. Crown Legacy, the best team in the East, and they showed why they're the best team in the East. Almost unbeatable at Matthews. And they end up getting the win yesterday. Top team in the Eastern Conference, and they now have more points, even though they have played one more match, than Colorado Rapids 2. 17 matches played, a record of 12-2, 3-2, and I know that Will knows all about those losses that Crown Legacy has achieved this year. That's what I'm saying. That's why I figured Will would run them off the field every time we played them. So, and I think it's 2 teams kind of built the same way. There's some youth there, but there's also some experience for both sides. But yeah, Crown Legacy with the 3-1 win yesterday. Atlanta United had an off week, came off the off week at the halfway point of the season. Right now, they're 7th in the Eastern Conference, and they're at 24 points. Crown Legacy, 12-2, 3-2, and that fourth column is the shootout win extra point that you get. So 41 points, 6 points clear the Revs. Crew 2 is in 3rd. Red Bulls 2 is 4th. OCB is 3 points ahead of Atlanta United 2 heading into next weekend. NYCFC 2 has 25 points, Atlanta United 24, and then the street fight that's going to be the 8th playoff spot right now. Fire, Union at 23, Hunt City at 22. So basically you've got 5 teams separated by 3 points at the bottom of the Eastern Conference in MLS Next Pro. But Atlanta United 2 yesterday goes to Crown Legacy once again. You can listen to that game in its entirety on the SDH network, and it's been really cool to be a part of telling the story with the Twos once again this season, albeit doing it over the air. And you have, Will, one match in hand with everybody underneath you, with everybody above you in points except for NYCFC. They have 16 as well. Atlanta, Chicago, Philadelphia have 17 matches played, and the Revs have 18. So you have one match on the folks directly above you in the standings, except for NYC, who is 3 points ahead of you in 6th. So that's where you are with Hunt City. And we'll have stuff all week long. There's a lot of other leagues and things that you'll get with programming. Once again, I started to do the traffic and got distracted. I know that surprises you. Later this week, obviously, we'll have the USL programming, the Championship, League One reviews, MLS Next Pro review. USLW is down to their final 4. Minnesota Aurora got beaten by Indy 11 So Indy 11 makes it through. North Carolina Courage make it through to the Final Four. And it's Glenn's and who's the fourth one? I can't remember, but that's 3 of the 4. Try to catch up with them as best we can. NPSL is in playoffs within conferences. It is Wednesday, Saturday. Wednesday has Hops at Apotheos in the Southeast Conference and Revs at App. And we'll catch up with Dale Parker and Jack Marchant. I may even try to have them on the show tomorrow, just so they can focus on either preparing or traveling and preparing, since this one will be up in Boone on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. If you can make it there, or if you can make it to North Cobb and catch up with Apotheos as they host Hops, 7 o'clock at North Cobb Christian School there. So NPSL Southeast Southern Conference is in Final Four. So midweek weekend to get you into the playoffs full to determine your conference champs, and that with the NPSL. Like I said, on Wednesday, we'll have the midweek whip around patent pending trademark coming in the 9 o'clock segment. Dylan Butler, hopefully he'll join us at 10. Bart knows he's joining us at 10:30 because I yelled it out on the show this morning. And then Bart will be back on Thursday with senior superlatives, basically. 11 of the tournament, disappointments, and it could be coaches, could be players, could be teams, that kind of stuff. So senior superlatives, we will know our finalists Thursday morning. So Bart probably joining us off the top Thursday. Hint, hint. And then Friday will be normal. 9 o'clock kick for us. 9:30, our friends at Beyond Goals. Michael Parkhurst says he's playing golf, so it's going to be Greg Garza. Greg, I think you've been warned. And then the weekend whip around patent pending trademark coming at 10 o'clock, and we'll get you ready once again for the NPSL conference finals. And we'll see what we can post on Friday to get you ready for everything as well. So that's your traffic for the week. And once again, very, very busy week on a bunch of different fronts. So it will be very, very, like I said, very, very cool, very, very fast moving. And apparently, according to our friends at The Score, Bayern is reportedly confident of striking a deal for Harry Kane despite Tottenham refusing his second bid. The Spurs may accept a bid of £100 million. So we'll keep an eye on that. There's a part of the news and notes. Will is still recovering from the smoke bombs that they release in Huntsville at Joe Davis. Apparently his hands are still blue because there's dyed stains. Chelsea's insisting Levi Caldwell's not for sale. Brighton are well aware of this after a rejected bid from earlier. Pochettino's going to speak one-on-one with Caldwell, who could be given an instant starting spot. Cesar Luis Merlo, hang on just a second. Looks like the negotiations are in final stages for Jordi Alba going to Inter Messi FC. That's according to Cesar Luis Merlo this morning. Let's see what else. Game for Ukraine has announced Alicia Dixon, Melanie C., Pete Doherty, The Pretenders, Tom Grennan, Tom Walker, all part of a collaborative pre-match, halftime, post-match music show August 5th, along with Ukrainian artists Vakarchuk of Ocean Elzy Band and Boombox. Okay. So Abby, with vital news. This is vital news, by the way. Saturday's National Ice Cream Day. She'll have more info when allowed, but special stuff at the tailgate lot this Saturday. And if I'm not mistaken, it will be our next appearance at Reverb, 1 o'clock Saturday to start your day. Ange Postecoglou on Harry Kane. He's one of the premier strikers in the world, and I want him involved here. Unless, of course, $11 gazillion are involved. Bam, once again, thanks as always to all the info and hanging out, and we'll catch up back up with you again tomorrow. So get your rest. 9 days until the Women's World Cup kicks off. Remember, also on the 21st, and we'll have Bart talk about this as well. U.S.-Vietnam. It'll be the last appearance of Bart Keeler before he heads to Australia and New Zealand for the World Cup. So we'll get into that as well. So there's plenty to talk about with all of that. All right. So since it is top of the hour, it is that time where we try and read promos, provided I could read handwriting of what's going on. And so it is that time where I take it out of loop, hit a button, read a promo. For auto-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's our friends at Eliminize Service. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Deodorizing in closed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, they've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use the Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment, offering a green way, and we like green way. Get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever, different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard. Because when we reach under the sink or above us in the cupboard to grab said masking agent, there's a reason they call it a masking agent. Spray it in the air, all you're doing is masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule, like our friends at Eliminize do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing very, very easy, either by the cubic foot or parts per million. Come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. Next thing you need to do, if you have any questions, you go to the website where I pick up my pen. Website's eliminize.com, but if you have any other questions, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from so they can help you with your problems. Full homework assignment. ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, eliminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of Everything SDH on a Monday. Like we said, Bart Keeler coming up in short order. And we will talk about, man, there's no such thing as a slow fade with that background music. You sit there and you go level down, level down, level down. And then when it gets to zero, it's just like, so can we, so David wants to know about get Bam on the payroll for the World Cup. Get him to do live hits with Bart. Well, but we're still trying to figure out time change, first and foremost, where Bart's going to be, if he can do something live, because I think if it's 14 hours, 9 a.m. means it's 11 p.m. And that's fairly manageable because then Bart can have a live shot and then he can go to sleep. If it's more than 14, this is when we run into problems because it's more than 14 hours as Bart joins us and we try to do math. And Luke Winstall, who is going to be covering the home team for a graduate program at the University of Georgia's journalism school.
Oh, nice.
He's going to be covering the home side. He'll be down there. And so Luke and Bart will be our live hemispheric reporters on site for the World Cup. What's the mug this morning, sir?
Drink coffee, do good.
Okay, drink coffee and do good. So before we get into activity from all over the place, and there's a lot of national stuff to discuss, sir. There was a press conference that kind of started the entire weekend off involving the women's national team.
Yes.
And a player has finally decided that she is going to hang up her boots after the NWSL season. Megan Rapinoe finally said, and I think she's on the cover of Time magazine, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Megan Rapinoe is finally hanging them up. When I mention Megan Rapinoe to you, what comes to mind with her place in not just women's soccer here in the United States, but women's soccer in general over the last really 2 decades?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is her assist to Abby Wambach in 2011 for that tying goal against Brazil that we ended up going on to win in penalty shootouts after Brazil was by far the worst version of themselves that game. That was an iconic moment. And then you go flash forwards 8 years to 2019 where she wins Golden Ball, Golden Boot, and she has the iconic celebration that even college football players were copying at that point in time.
Are you not entertained?
I think she has shown up in big moments for the U.S. women, but she's also shown up in big moments for women's soccer off the field. And I think I'm not going to sit here and tell you that she's one of the greatest players ever, because I think she's had a turbulent career. Part of that because she's had 3 ACL surgeries. But she has been a very impactful player. And I think when you look at some of the other U.S. women's legends, you think of their impact off the field as well as their on-field impact. You can compare someone like Michelle Akers and Carly Lloyd, who were super, influential on the field. They were great players. They scored a lot of goals. Off the field, well, Michelle was a little quieter. She preferred horses to people, which I totally understand. Um, and Carly Lloyd had a long documented issue with being a good teammate. But, you also can look at girls like Mia Hamm, who became so important for the women's game. Julie Foudy and what she's done since then. Even Brandi Chastain and her singular iconic moment that is etched into the eyes of sports fans and across the U.S. Honestly, I think that when it comes to the women's soccer team, and especially here in the U.S., the off-field or the non-just playing things are what stick with us, and I think Pino is the leader of that. She obviously, again, you go back to 2019 and her just ability to rally the team in a time of great turmoil with the federation, with literally in Congress, congressional equal pay acts, all of these things that she was influential in getting through. And I think when you start talk about Megan Rapinoe, there's some great on-field moments, but her off-the-field contributions are probably what's going to lead the headlines. And her hair.
Yes. Depending on which tournament or live shot or moment in the public that you saw, it was a different color, different shade, and what have you. Not afraid.
We're currently deciding if this is the question for the Twitch pitch that I have for you all. Is it Baja Blast blue or is it Super Saiyan blue?
Ooh.
What color is her hair?
See, because I was going to go with turquoise.
It's somewhere between turquoise and blue, but it's definitely, that's what I'm saying. At Baja Blast, it's very that color.
Yeah.
Very Super Saiyan. So if y'all have any comments in the Twitch pitch.
Yeah, I'll go Baja Blast until further notice. But yeah, I was looking at it going, yeah, that's a bit of an ocean. It's a bit of a clear.
Do you want some Taco Bell?
Yeah, man. But there's nothing better than going through the drive-through at like 11. Well, Coastal. All right, so Sam says Super Saiyan.
Coastal is a darker turquoise. Now we're getting into color theory.
Yeah, it is. Baja Blast, Super Saiyan, Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina is going into more of the green shades, the sea foam when you attach, stuff like that. So,
but maybe her hair does look a little bit like a Chanticleer at times. I don't know.
That is true. So you're staring at all of that. All right. So also as a part of this, busy weekend, and it was USA and Wales. Trinity Rodman gets a brace within 11 minutes in front of a crowd of 18,000. What did you take away from the match in San Jose at PayPal Park? Say that 10 times fast.
PayPal Park, yeah. I think I took away the biggest thing was this was a team that in Wales that was very committed to not conceding a goal. And I think the unfortunate thing for the U.S. right now is, and this is going to be the struggle of the whole tournament. So this game played out very similarly to, I think, how a lot of teams are going to play us and how games will play out. Vlatko, listen, if you're an Atlanta United fan, Vlatko probably frustrates you as much as Gonzalo Pineda's teams frustrate you, where there's a lot of possession. The goal is to control the match through possession. And the problem that Vlatko runs into and his teams run into right now is that when you play a team with a lower block who's going to defend and try to put a lot of numbers behind the ball, we struggle to break that down. The problem, I think, for Vlatko is, and this is kind of the conundrum, right, is NWSL as a whole is a transition-based league. I mean, you watch that league, it is back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And all of our players, especially our attacking players, thrive in those transition moments where they have space and a defender, they have one or two defenders to beat. Unless you're Sophia Smith, who will beat all the defenders. But even then, we're talking about teams that are stretched a little bit. Very few NWSL teams play in a compact nature because, and I will continue to say this, NWSL is the most competitive league in the world because every single team is good, except for maybe Chicago, but even they're winning right now. And the goal is to try to go score goals, right? So we're struggling against those low blocks to break them down because our team wants to go run. The opponents are not giving us that space. But what we saw in the second half was Wales got a little tired. They got a little greedy. And when you bring on for Alex Morgan and not Sophia Smith, she played the whole game. When you have Alyssa Thompson starting, but then you bring on a Lynn Williams or Trinity Rodman, well, that's dangerous because if the other team's a little tired, you have Lynn Williams, who's maybe the fastest player in NWSL. You have Trinity Rodman, who's very fast. You even have Alyssa Thompson, who's very fast, and Alex Morgan, who's not slow, and Sophia Smith, who will just beat you. Like, that's where these games are going to go, especially when you're looking at the group that we have with Vietnam and Portugal, very defensive-minded teams. We're going to have to be patient, and it's going to be important for the team to be patient. And so I think last afternoon, there was a lot of U.S. soccer yesterday.
Yes, there was.
Is very indicative of how these U.S. Women's World Cup games are going to go. We're just going to have to be a little patient because once we can find the slightest bit of space behind a team, we're going to create some good stuff. It was frustrating the first 80 minutes, but Trinity Rodman showed why she is worth $1 million.
And also, kind of a newsy news, Savannah DeMello got her first cap.
Yeah. So we played U.S. Women's Trivia Bingo last night between the two games where we called out some trivia, and the answer was obviously the bingo square, which was all the players. And my clue for DeMello was she was the first player in U.S. Women's national team history to get called up to the World Cup roster without a cap since 2003, which was Shannon Box, which decent shoes to follow for talking about legends of the U.S. game. But obviously she gets her first cap before the World Cup. Shannon Box didn't get hers until that 2003 tournament in the U.S. So good for her. Abby, you were close to getting bingo. Thanks for coming. Good for her. I think if Rose Lavelle is going to be unhealthy or not 100% fit, you're going to see DeMello because I think her and Sanchez will be the backups to Lavelle. Good to see Haran play pretty well for all 90 minutes, I will say. And that was good for DeMello because I think she needed to obviously get her feet wet, but kind of understand what that midfield combination is going to be for her.
Lineup yesterday, Fox, Naomi Girma, Alana Cook, Crystal Dunn, midfield, Andy Sullivan, Lindsay Horan, Ashley Sanchez, forward, Sophia Smith, Alex Morgan, Alyssa Thompson, Rodman, Sophia Huerta, Lynn Williams, Savannah DeMello, Emily Sonnet, Christy Mewis all making appearances. Yeah. Anything else from that bunch that stuck with you?
Christy Mewis at the midfield position, the center mid position did not really work again. And that's going to be frustrating, obviously, if you're not going to have Julie Ertz able to play a lot anyway. I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense. That's going to be frustrating the whole game. The other thing that I noticed from the game was that I think our back line was pretty good. And I'm hoping that stays the same throughout the whole tournament.
All right. Switching over from is the room better now?
Yeah.
Okay.
The fan was too high though.
Just checking. Switching from the WNT to the USMNT, John Herdman. I wanted to see, I tried to make sure I could get those two words in so you didn't get a spit take because I didn't want you to mess up your camera. John Herdman, before the match, said, and I'm paraphrasing, that he didn't want to score any more goals so he could face the U.S. men's national team in the quarterfinals. Sir, do not say things like that because then you'll get what you wish for. Although I don't think the bingo card had this match going into a shootout.
Well, let's be real honest. The U.S. made fools of Canada most of that match last night. And they were lucky to get to the extra time. They really were. And they did not deserve to even make it to extra time. I'm not saying that like the U.S. deserved to win necessarily. We were not great. But we were much more in control of that match. And it wasn't even your typical kind of like their goals were typical Canada goals, but they really didn't even create a whole lot of those chances. And they got a lucky goal because it deflects off of Matt Miazga behind Matt Turner. Like it wasn't, they didn't make a lot of great attacking plays.
The first shot on net was the PK.
Yeah. And that was the PK was unfortunate. Miles Robinson, a little before he goes to Europe, he needs to do Gabriel does this for Arsenal all the time. He kind of just defends with his arms behind his back. He maybe needs to learn that. But then their goal to go ahead was a lucky goal. They their only potential was possibly getting penalty kicks the entire game, whereas the U.S. was, I still think, and we'll talk about him, but specifically a little bit too content to settle for crosses, unfortunately. Obviously, that's because Canada only likes to play murder defense ball. They don't really do attacking soccer. And I think that's coming back to bite them finally. I finally think Canada has realized, or the soccer gods have finally come back and said, hey, Canada, you don't get to outscore your XG by like 27 anymore. You actually need to play soccer on occasion. And John Herdman, I think his tactics need to evolve. I truly do. I don't think Canada deserved much from that game. I think they got more excitement than they deserved. And go home, cry about having to play you can go home and cry about having to play another CONCACAF tournament in our country. You couldn't even beat Guadeloupe in your home nation. So STFU, maybe if your federation could manage its money better, you could host tournaments like this, but y'all can't. So shut up, go home, think about what you've done, and figure out why y'all can't seem to be the top dog that you think you are. You still got the U.S. and Mexico here in this tournament. Y'all are going home. And don't talk to me about rosters A, B, C, and D. I got the numbers. Y'all played a ton of people who played in that Nations League final last night, where we only played Turner and Robinson. So stop. Get out of here. Actually, I'm sorry. Turner, Robinson, and Zendejas for us. We had 3. They had 3 starters carry over. We only had 1. They had 4 come off the bench. We only had 2. And they had 3 that were still on the bench. We only had 2. So we had 5 players hold over at all from the Nations League final. They had 10.
I feel like, and I probably should. I don't know how many of the folks on the Twitch pitch have seen Survive in Advance, the Jim Valvano documentary, the 30 for 30 one, where it was Pepperdine. It was the Pepperdine segment where Pepperdine had a lead on NC State, and then they foul Dane Suttles, and Jim Herrick gets his sound bites in there, and NC State comes back for the win, and they asked Derek Wittenberg what he told the Pepperdine bench when the game was over. He says, "Go home." I need that drop. Yeah. I need that drop.
Yes, I do too, because I think that's where I'm at with Canada right now. It's really cute that y'all had a good qualifying run in 2021 and 22. That's cute. Good for y'all. Y'all ain't been since before or after that. You haven't. Listen, they won 1 Gold Cup in 2000. Mm-hmm. John, how many finals have they made since then?
I believe the answer would be that.
Zero. They have 1 Nations League final out of the 2. Congratulations. But you've only made you're not that impressive. Like, it just stop pretending you're a cool kid. When we're over here wearing Abercrombie and Fitch and you're still shopping at Old Navy.
They're shopping at Spencer and
there's a 90s kid reference for you.
Or go to Spencer and think that you can go shop at the back with all the neon stuff.
Right.
Getting it done.
Yeah.
With the back, I know that obviously, and what we always do is we go through the rankings from our friends at Soccer America. It was Paul Kennedy.
I'm with you, Coco. No shade to Old Navy. I was an Old Navy kid.
Absolutely. Yeah. Paul Kennedy's turn to give all the ratings for the match. Matt Turner got a 7, obvious reasons. We'll get into that coming up in just a bit.
Only a 7?
Yeah. Didn't have to make a save in regulation or overtime, set the tone for the shootout, stopping the first 2 attempts by Vittoria and Frazier.
I disagree. Matt Turner gets a 12. I like
Liam Frazier did not look like he wanted to be there, frankly. Turner also found Miazga with a long ball into the penalty area that led to USA's equalizer in overtime. Defense. Miles Robinson, he gave Miles a 3.
Well, Miles almost gave up 2 penalty kicks.
And I get it because of the 2 handballs. But
I actually thought Miles, and I'm sure we'll talk Jalen, I thought they were good defensively for the most part. Jalen looked a little bit young, but Miles was strong defensively. He got a little too reliant on a through ball, a long ball over top, be it a diag or just a quick little clip over the line. I think I would have liked him to try to play a little bit more in possession. But I thought Miles was fine last night outside of the 2 penalty calls.
Well, and Jalen to me looked uncomfortable at times. It looked like he was getting to the pressure of the moment was getting to Jalen Neal last night.
Which was a little disappointing because he's been good this tournament, but he's only 19. So if you're telling me that a 19-year-old looked a little uncomfortable or unsure of himself in a big moment, I would still start him next game because I'd rather okay, now we're getting into it. I'd rather him learn and become comfortable than waste those minutes on Aaron Long or Matt Miazga. Mm-hmm. Yes, the goal is to win the tournament. I'm not arguing that. But this tournament, if you don't win, we've beaten Canada, so they can't talk anymore. Worst case scenario is Mexico wins their 9th Gold Cup and they have a little bit of joy, and maybe that's what they need to actually become slightly good again. I don't know. I would rather spend these minutes on Jalen Neal than a guy like Miazga or Long, who, and we can talk a little bit about Miazga. He's been kind of bad this tournament, but where are we investing the time and effort? I'd rather invest it into Neal.
Brian Reynolds punched a 4. Jalen Neal punched a 3, according to Paul, and DeJuan Jones punched a 5. Of course, DeJuan Jones' ball to Brandon Vasquez got everything moving.
That was a fantastic cross. That was so good. And that's the type of cross that I actually think. So this is where I think, and we'll talk about him, but we kind of saw the difference in having a lead the line type striker. And that cross from Jones was the perfect example of I could just kind of hit this into the box. Mm-hmm. And now granted, it was beautifully weighted, beautifully placed. I thought Jones and Reynolds were better, but I think defensively they all have their moments. And again, Canada's not bad. They have their attacking threats. And it's fine. But I thought overall they were better than what those ratings gave them. But we won, so I'm just looking at it a little bit from that side.
Yeah, midfielders got 6s and 5s. Sands and Busio got 6s. Georgi Mihailovic got a 5 from Paul.
Yeah, I think Mihailovic had a rough game yesterday, but I think that was also a little bit of Canada's kind of tactics is to hassle him a little bit more than Busio. We've seen this tournament Mihailovic be a little bit more influential in games than Busio. I thought Sands had a decent night defensively. Attacking wise, again, I'd like to be a little bit more, I don't want to say progressive, but maybe adventurous. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
But I thought he was pretty good. And I'm happy to see him kind of evolve into what could be the backup 6. I know, again, we had the Nations League where we saw Musa play that position. And it was actually pretty good. But having a true number 6 to be backup to Tyler Adams is still something we don't have. Maybe Sands can figure that out for the national team. I don't know. This isn't the best tournament to necessarily test that theory, but I thought he's been good.
Up top, Paul gave Julian Gressel, Alex Zendejas 4s, and Jesus Ferreira a 5.
Yeah, I thought Gressel was bad. I'm going to be real honest with y'all. I'm sorry, Atlanta fans. Mm-mm. I know we feel like Julian Gressel is the greatest player who's ever existed. He was so reluctant to try to do anything creative outside of whipping across. Mm-hmm. And it really hurt us, especially when, and again, we find the limits of Jesus Ferreira in matches like these, right? Where when we have to settle on crosses, which happens in a lot of matches like this, when we have to settle for crosses, Ferreira's not the striker to use. That's why I was a little upset that BJ started him. I would have started Vasquez because I think it was going to be clear that we were going to have to settle for crosses in this game against Canada, like we tend to always do. Even in the Nations League final, you saw what having a true kind of, again, lead the line striker in Balogun and Pepe did for our play, because it stretches the field, forces Canada to have to defend deeper in their half, giving us more space in the midfield, but also allowing us to, if we need to hit across, an actual target to find. I thought Gressel was very bad again. I thought he just hit crosses. He lost possession too many times. Defensively, he wasn't fantastic. And I just got to be honest with y'all about that, And again, he's 29 years old. That's not by any stretch of the imagination old in terms of normal human years, but is that a guy that we need to be investing money, time, and effort into long term? And the answer is no. He's not. He's nowhere close. I'm sorry, nowhere close to either the B or A team. So what are we doing when we could give it to a lot of younger talents? Could we have kept Taylor Booth? Could we have called in Paxton Aronson? Could we have brought up Nico Gioacchini from St. Louis, who has experience in the Gold Cup as well, and is probably a little bit more of a dynamic attacker than Gressel? So just got to be real honest with y'all about Gressel. I think he was very bad yesterday.
41 touches, 15 of 21 passing at 71%, one key pass, 1 of 11 on crosses, 1 for 1 on long balls, lost all 5 of his duels, 3 fouls for Julian, 2 offside calls, 1 pick, and 2 dribbles passed, and that was Julian.
And that 1 of 11 crossing is not all on Julian, because, again, as I said, we didn't really have a striker in the box who was going to get on the end of crosses like that. But again, it's one of those like, hey, maybe don't just lump in a cross. It got a little Brooks Lennon on me, just trying to hit a cross. And I expect more from a player at the national team level.
Subs, 1990s action hero star Cade Cowell, fresh off his appearance in Knight Rider, got a 5. Brandon got a 6. Miazga got a 5. Aaron Long and Jordan Morris got 4s. Christian Roldan, because of his lack of minutes in general, was given no rating by Paul.
I thought Cade was good. I thought he was better than I expected him to be against Canada. Nothing really came of it, but he at least attacked their back line, would push them under pressure, and gave our other attackers more space to work in. And I think, again, that was the difference between he and Zendejas, because Zendejas has been very disappointing this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Cowell is fighting for that same kind of spot on the roster as Zendejas, as like the backup winger. We kind of talked about that before the tournament, where Morris in that conversation may be fading. He had an okay game, but I thought Cowell was the best of the subs that came on to really actually impact the game. I was disappointed in Miazga coming on for Neil. I don't think Neil was that bad, but I'm also looking at this as maybe that was BJ making a attacking sub. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. No, it's, when you're trying to put the game away, and Jalen Neal, and also
Jalen's not short, but Matt Miazga is very tall. That's my point.
So no, it makes sense, to give Jalen a bit of a rest and get him ready for midweek, whatever role he's going to have. You bring in Miazga, where you might be flipping the lineup card, something like that, minutes wise, and bring in an experienced attacking sub versus what you were seeing from Jalen.
Yeah.
And as the game was going on, you want to try to minimize the opportunities for Jalen to get caught in the mistakes that he made earlier on that would cost you more later.
Right. And he did make some mistakes. I mean, that's the thing but I would rather see a 19-year-old make those mistakes. He recovered from them, by the way. I think he had some bad passes, but like, I'm okay with that, because that's a, hey, buddy, just be a little bit more focused type thing. Mm-hmm. His defensive mistakes were not great. I think they were more him having to read the game. I mean, let's call it what it is. Jamaica, good team. St. Kitts and Trinidad, not super intense or super fast paced necessarily.
Yeah.
They're quick, but not like a fast tempo necessarily. And Canada did take that up a level. So Jalen wasn't quite attuned to that all the time. I still think that he did a good job recovering from his mistakes, and literally in the moment, but then also throughout the rest of the match. He got beat a couple times because he misplayed a ball, he learned and he made up for it. So, again, I'm okay with the 19-year-old playing in his first Gold Cup making these mistakes, so long as he learns. And I thought he improved as the night went on, but Miazga was fine. I mean, I don't put too much on him on that second goal that Canada scored. I do think he should have tried to defend a little bit higher on Schaffelberg. I think he let Schaffelberg get a little too into the box, and then obviously he gets a shot off and it's deflected through his legs. But also, Jesus Ferreira can't lose that duel in the midfield and put us in a position like that. So it was a little bit on Miazga for not defending well, but he also got put in a bad spot.
All right. So before we get into reffing down here and stupidity down here, what else sticks with you from the match last night?
We won, John. That's what matters. Like, seriously, there's going to be a lot of, you can take a lot from this game in individual performances, overall team performance. And we just talked about that all. But at the end of the day, we won. And I think we looked the better team throughout the entire match. I mean, there were stretches that Canada was putting us under pressure. Canada is not a bad team. And especially, again, when you look at their lineup where you have 10 holdovers from the Nations League playing in this match, well, 7 playing, I should say. That's a lot. So Canada trying to pass this off as their C team is baloney, or Canadian ham, whatever they call it.
Canadian bacon.
Canadian bacon is whatever it is. I think that's disingenuous. Whereas you look at the U.S. roster and there are truly third and fourth choice play. I mean, Matt Miazga and Aaron Long and even Jalen Neal are nowhere close to a first team roster, right? Miles Robinson, Matt Turner, they're on that first team roster for sure. I think Ferreira is definitely on a first team roster if you're looking at like a whole camp. I think he's in that group of 30 players who you would consider for the first team if that's what we can do. Not starting 11, but the first group. I think Ferreira's in that conversation.
Right.
But this was a team of guys who are trying to find their way into the fringes of the second team a lot of times. And they won.
Scoreboard.
What do you want?
Scoreboard, move on. It's a tournament.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say is Matt Turner is so good, man.
He's a man.
So saving a penalty kick, and we can get a little bit into goalkeeping down here. It's a mixture of reading. I think Matt does great research. I think that's something that I'm getting from him, as he seems to know where players tend to want to go. But can I say whatever? The balls it took for him.
The testicular fortitude?
The testicular fortitude, the huevos it took for him to stare down Vitoria in that penalty kick shootout and just say, come at me again, bro. Mm-hmm. And he just stood in the middle and saved it. That took cojones, that was a man's move right there.
The man's move.
And, honestly, the other, he got close to a couple others. Mm-hmm. I still maintain he saved 3 because I think if you miss a penalty kick, then the goalkeeper saved it. But that's me speaking as a goalkeeper. But it takes instincts, it takes research, it takes reading of the player to see where their body is moving. But I'll tell you too, I mean, this happens to me all the time as a goalkeeper. I guess the right way or read the right way all the time. That still doesn't mean I'm saving it, And he does. And it's so impressive to watch him. It's very I know everyone loves to talk about Tim Melia in MLS for saving goal penalty kicks. Yeah. I think it's Matt Reese-esque in my opinion. There's a guy we haven't talked about in a decade, I'm sure.
Wow.
Matt Reese was very, very good at doing all the things that Matt Turner does, which involves reading and instincts. Watching them, it's very similar.
And I think a lot of folks kind of get lost in the idea of just the wrist strength that you need to have to make sure that when a ball is coming at you, that this doesn't happen, that you stay as locked in as possible. And I mean, to parry with to parry with authority like that and keeping your wrist the way that it's supposed to be. Yeah. I think it's an underrated control of muscles to have something like that go down. But yes, Matt Turner is a man when it comes to penalties. The reffing down here that I wanted to get into is on a couple of different fronts, and it's from the match itself, where first minute Christian Espinoza has his nose broken.
Yeah.
And I know that there was talk on the national broadcast because it happened in the first minute and it was an 8-minute delay. And you bring in folks who were in the previous match, Caleb Wales, who was in the first match. I'd love to know what his Fitbit looks like after the second match was over. But there was talk in the national broadcast about, well, this happened in the first minute. Let's just go ahead and start the match over. You can't quite do that, can you?
No, because we've played soccer. You have a whole different restart. I mean, our restart there is a throw-in for the U.S. So, John, I couldn't hear the broadcast. Was it an official from the previous match, or was it the fourth official who took over the AR duties and they moved?
Initially, they took O'Shea Nation and moved him down. Okay. And then they got to a stopping point,
and Wales came in. Okay, because that was the concern when I was looking back at it this morning. The other three officials involved in the previous match, Fisher, Canadian, another Canadian was on the line, and Dickerson was the fourth official. He's a U.S. citizen. Mm-hmm. So Wales from Trinidad was the only one really eligible to referee this match. Okay, so that makes sense. I saw O'Shea Nation go to the line, and then I saw later on a swap. So I guess that's what happened. I wasn't sure exactly what was changed, but that makes sense. And that's what we kind of figured happened. It was either that a lot of things can happen in that scenario. Yeah. The fourth official taking over is the first step. And so sometimes you'll have the fourth official be replaced, and the first official will go to the line and stay there. But that was, we kind of thought is like they had a match before this, so they have ARs. But when I looked at it this morning, I was like, oh crap, they couldn't have done that except for like one dude. Yeah. And that was who ended up doing it. So congratulations to him getting multiple games in a day. And to be honest, we don't like to do that at this level. When you get to really higher up games, you don't referee multiple games in a day. And when I do like a state cup tournament here in Georgia, we're capped at 3 games a day. And a lot of times we only do 2. Because you need to, and that's with like breaks in between, because you need to stay fresh. And it's not just a physical thing. It is a mental thing. When you've seen 4 games in a day or multiple games in a day, things do kind of meld together, and you have to, we've talked about this so many times. Each game is its own thing. They do kind of happen in their own little silo. Yes, things transfer over, but you can't take what happened last game and still use it in the game that you're refereeing now. So very impressive he did that. And yeah, you're right, that Fitbit is going to look good. He deserves a burger and several beers.
He's got to go to Skyline, get him some chili.
I mean, dude was probably in the shower. Let's be real honest. Like, they had just finished. You had like an hour between. You probably did your debrief, showered, and probably got a meal. He's probably like,
Caleb.
Yeah.
Caleb, we need you real quick. But yeah, get Caleb some Skyline chili and some Hughie Delight to wash it down with.
Yeah. Well, give him Skyline chili. We don't want his intestines to be messed up for the next week. But
yeah, well, you got that. Marco Antonio Ortiz in the middle. It was all over the place. I'm not going to lie.
I thought he was consistent
about not calling anything.
Right. So my thought was, okay, fine. Like, if he's going to not call it, but then he gave some yellow cards for fouls. I'm like, well, they got to a yellow card foul. You allowed everything up till that. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of my issue and this is where we get into the problem with a lot of referees and younger referees specifically who are, when you see older refs who just go, oh, I'm just not going to call anything, let them play. I believe in letting them play. That's fine. But this is what happens is you get an ugly match where players are getting fouled a lot, and when your level is a yellow card foul, well, now you're given a card for every foul, and you don't want to be in that situation.
Right. And to me, it was, you had to-dos, you had comings together, you had tete-a-tetes.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was out of control for me at points in trying to
It 100% was, John.
And it's you when you're in a quarterfinal that's heated to begin with coming in because of history, and then your line's going all over the place, and you have fouls that are called, and then a lot of stuff that wasn't. I mean, there was one sequence, I want to say it was either late in the 90 or it was in the following 15, where there was a sequence where you could have called at least 4 fouls in a row, and he let them all go.
Yeah, and I think one, it's not good for the players because, believe it or not, the players want to play within some sort of boundaries. Not necessarily from I want to have a boundary on what I can do, but I need a boundary of what the other opponent can do to me. And we have to kind of respect that, right? Like we do want some sort of control over what the opponent can, he can't just kick the crap out of me because it feels like it. Yeah. I felt, had he been a little bit more, I don't want to say aggressive, but just strict with his whistle and calling fouls, Cavallini's foul in the first half could have been a red card.
Yeah. It could have been.
Because that was a nasty challenge that he kind of launched. That wasn't just he was close and he made a slack. That was he launched himself into that challenge. I think Canada was lucky Cavallini did not get a red card.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the slow-mo, and we welcome in Jarrett Smith from
Colorado.
Bart, I was waiting for Christian Roldan to be the one to take that last penalty and to Panenka it, because I know that you are actually contractually obligated to never know peace.
Oh, man. I'm glad it didn't come to that. And it's because we have the greatest goalkeeper of all time, Matt Turner, saving penalty kicks.
We have a baseball player that basically did what I wanted to do. Well, I've never been as good as he is, but basically I need something to do in the off season. I'm going to stay between the sticks.
Yeah. It's worked out well for him.
Also, there's a certain psychosis that comes with, if you have been like me and spent 10 years catching, well, this ball's bigger. It's not going nearly as fast. I don't mind if it hits me in the face. Why not?
Yeah.
Right. Jarrett, we've been going over the U.S.-Canada match and how John Herdman is to the point now where he's just talking to hear himself talk, and nothing that comes out of his mouth is coming to fruition, like the 90th time in a row.
There's really nothing substantial about what he's doing or what they are doing. It's, at this point, I feel like, don't we know what Canada is and are not? It's not like it's just going to magically change overnight. It's a lot of talk. It's really simple, direct play. He'll change the system and change the look based on the game, because they're not zealots to any one thing. And I said it before, if you have more than one quarterback, you don't really have a quarterback. You don't really have anything that you're married to, and feels like it limits the ceiling.
Jarrett, I'm sorry, John. Jarrett, I feel like they haven't evolved since qualifying. And to your point, they when they try something new, it seems not unrehearsed, but kind of like, hey, we think this will be good in this game. And to your point, not really having they need, if they're going to be the defensive direct team, do that. Mm-hmm. But they still haven't evolved past that. And it's a little bit of a shame considering that they're trying to be a top dog in the region. I don't know if you can be the top dog, especially in CONCACAF, playing the way they're playing.
And to Coco's point, because dude, they wish they were locked into what they do as much as Scotland is. Scotland is exactly what they are, and they all know what they are. They know they're defensive. Scotland's going to do exactly what Atlanta did last year when they're healthy, which is, remember when Atlanta last year was pushing Wiley on the left wing back and Gutman at the left back forward into the attack and just overloading the left side? Well, that's what Scotland does with Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson. But they
Well, it's
also
because you
defend
have
really
17
well.
left backs on the roster. So
Exactly. But they know Scotland's going to come out and they're going to play exactly their way against everybody because they believe it's going to work. I don't think Canada has that conviction in any one style.
No. And let's be honest, I think it's very. It's not that they didn't deserve to be Panama and that Nations League semifinal, because they did. But Alphonso Davies was the reason they won that game. They weren't that great outside of it. And again, last night, their two best chances before extra time were hopeful penalty kicks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long ball that took a weird bounce off of Miles Robinson's arms. I mean, we were talking about it in our green room, Bart, that I was lamenting it. It was like, man, Canada's going to justify the whole thing because they got a weird bounce off of Miles Robinson's arm.
Mm-hmm.
That could have hit the other player first. It was you can't. That's not replicable.
No, exactly. It's not like you built this attacking pattern and this sequence that was brilliant. It's not like you built sequences all night that didn't come off, and then they magically did. That's something where you can go in post game and go into film room and look. Hey man, look, we had them figured out. We just got to pick the right pass next time. We got to get somebody blocked a shot. It's repeatable. That's not getting
which is different than what they were doing in qualifying, though. That's what I don't get. Is in qualifying they weren't. It wasn't beautiful attacking soccer, but they were able to kind of create patterns of play that were very consistent. And again, it was contingent on turnovers, but you're gonna get turnovers in soccer. We know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I think teams adjust to it. They okay, this is what Canada's going to thrive on. So here's where we can't turn the ball over. If we turn it over deep in the attacking half, or even what Frank de Boer always talked about when he was here, which was if I'm in an attacking sequence, I need it to end in a goal, a foul, or a ball out of play.
Yep.
Because if you can do that, then you can stop them from countering. And if you stop Canada from countering, they're going to have to adjust because teams have adjusted to them. And you're right. What worked in qualifying worked really damn well. And so my thoughts are two things. Either everyone's adjusted and Canada isn't adjusting back, or Canada got scared because they were facing different but also the same federation competition. Almost like they got nervous and decided to try something new when you kind of dance with the one who got you to the show.
Well, Herdman's done that before. I mean, he did 3 different things in the group stage back in the World Championship.
Oh, he also trash talk a country that has just basically skinned most of the free world alive.
I was going to say, of all the countries to trash talk.
How very un-Canadian of you, sir.
Yeah, they're all rude Canadians. Don't let them fool you. All Canadian soccer people are rude.
Okay, so
they manage money.
Where was my quote? I had a quote that was somewhat meaningful here. Did I lose my quote? No, I didn't. Oh, wrong tab. You mentioned Matt Turner. Quote, a lot of the penalties I'd seen on my sheets or in my prep, most of those guys were off the pitch by the time the pens were there. I just trusted my instincts really, and typically when I do that, I find myself having a lot more success, end quote. That was from Matt Turner.
Can we talk about the wrist strength? Because
we did earlier, yes.
Man, because the first one, that hits him right at the base of the hand of the wrist, and he just pops it straight up here, and then the stare down.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Ferreira's goes right off of Dane St. Clair's wrist, which just bends backwards like a Big 12 defense.
Yeah, that's what Bart was getting into when he mentioned Dane St. Clair. Couple of pieces of news really quickly. The Revs have acquired Argentine winger Tomas Shankalai on loan from Racing Club via Al Wasl in the UAE. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the sounder on this one because it's big. It's no.
That's not a sound unless you got a new sounder. That ain't the sounder.
No, because it's apparently in loop and it was being dumb. So here we go. From Ben Strauss of the Washington Post. The New York Times announces today that it plans to shutter its sports desk, relying instead on The Athletic for most sports coverage. The Times will offer jobs elsewhere in the newsroom to current sports staffers, the company said, and plans to form a new team on its business desk focused on the business of sports. The plan comes amid a reorganization at The Athletic, which is losing money and recently announced layoffs. Will be met with resistance from Times Sports staffers who wrote a letter to company execs over the weekend demanding input into the section's future. Executive editor Joseph Kahn was scheduled to meet with the staff this morning. It is a developing story and will be updated.
I was about to say, The Athletic just started, just took a scythe to half their staff.
Mm-hmm.
This might be the way that The Athletic kind of stays relevant, but yeah.
But it's kind of limping along here. Like,
mm-hmm.
Look, there's still some damn good writers at The Athletic, don't get me wrong. But, oh, man, I mean, like,
yeah,
it's just kind of limping here.
Yes, but that hasn't stopped the New York Times has to justify a purchase, and so what they're doing is they're having the Athletic guys do their stuff, and now the New York Times folks are apparently either being reassigned or being shown the door. Before we go, I talked about it as a part of Stupidity Down Here this morning, and I don't know if either of you guys have seen it, but in the Telegraph from Tom Gary, and I posted the link in the Twitch pitch, Holland and Spain's national teams, there was a clip of 4 Spain players imitating the haka, branded as disrespectful by fans online. The video has since been deleted. Instagram account of the Netherlands team showed multiple players, including their captain, poking fun at the haka, and that has since been taken down from the Reels section of the team Instagram page.
Do they play the Kiwis in rugby ever? Because their national rugby team might put out a hit on the soccer team for that.
Spain's going to, in the group stage, I don't know. Group stage, Spain faces Japan, Costa Rica, Zambia. The Netherlands are in the group with the U.S., Portugal, and Vietnam. So, yeah, I just wanted to.
I mean, why are you going to anger?
Yeah.
Why are you going to anger one of the consistently the best sides in the world that performs one of the most electrifying moves in entertainment?
Yeah.
And something that is heartfelt to them.
Yeah.
Like, to get more serious about it. Like, it's something that matters. It's not just a performance art for some of those guys. Like, it's
part of their culture. It's part of their culture, and you're ishing on.
I don't know what the largest margin of victory is, but they're going to go for it.
Yeah. Find your calendars, and if something happens in the knockouts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's and it's also just like, you're going to the host country.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we making fun of that for a country that is opening its doors and going to put on what might be the best Women's World Cup yet? When we talk about just overall fan engagement and showcase.
Oh, and by the way,
because we can't have nice things.
No, we can't. And especially, get this, Tom Gary's been on a roll. The Lucy Bronze came out in an interview, says it's frustrating that a deal over performance-related bonuses for the squad at this summer's Women's World Cup was not resolved before they traveled to Australia. It's understood discussions between the squad and the FA over bonuses are not dead, and there remains some hope that an agreement can be reached. According to sources, the Professional Footballers Association are continuing to provide the Lionesses players with support in the talks. First women's edition, where players from every participating team gets individual prize money payments from FIFA. England players had hoped the FA would add a bonus on top of that FIFA-organized reward, but as yet no deal has been reached. So
that seems to be consistent with the rest of everything going on in women's soccer.
The FA is not committed to World Cup bonuses for the Lionesses, so there's that as well. And
nothing left to do but go win the whole damn thing.
Yep. And
they're going to have a tough road to hoe, though. I'm telling you, that side of the bracket is.
It's a lot of rocks in that field.
Yes. Oh, Bart's got a bracket.
It is rough. On that side of the bracket, you have Australia, the home nation, France,
France.
England, Germany, Canada, Brazil.
France.
Any of those teams could make a case that they could win the tournament.
Yeah.
Anytime I see the Canadians, let's just keep pounding on the Canadians because it's fun to pile on. Anytime I see them, I just remember the game where like basically they got in a street fight with the U.S. and like punching and cheap shotting each other, and just basically it turned into Hell in a Cell. That's just how that's how I perceive the Canadian women's national team getting in a fight with the U.S. constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on the other side, the U.S. has Japan, Norway, South Africa, or
now
Italy or Argentina.
You're fishing because I see your hand movement and you're kind of sitting there and your hand movement is going.
Well, the thing is, so the U.S. is going to play the second place team in Group G, which is Sweden, South Africa, Italy, Argentina.
Okay.
Sweden's probably going to win that group.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty safe. So South Africa, Italy, Argentina, neither of those teams, none of them scare me at all. We play most likely the winner of Norway, Japan, possibly New Zealand. We're not quite sure where they're going to be at. Spain and Sweden have to play each other most likely before they play the U.S. So we know that in Group C is going to be a tough one, right? You have Spain, Japan, Zambia, Costa Rica. That'll be a very tough group. Mm-hmm. But I think it's likely that Spain, Japan are getting out. Who's first, who's second, we'll see. The U.S. will play the second place team in that group in our quarterfinal if we beat whoever we're matched up again in that round of 16.
Right.
Whereas the winner of that group will be matched up against Sweden, most likely in the quarterfinal. So semifinal looks to be U.S.-Sweden. I think that's a safe bet. Possibly USA-Spain. I will again reiterate, Spain has won exactly 0 knockout round games of any international competition. And they are dealing with their own issues of the federation and an incompetent coach. The U.S. may have an incompetent coach, but Spain's is even more incompetent. So I want to reiterate, it's very likely the U.S. makes the final.
Yeah.
Just very likely, at least the semifinal. It's very likely we medal again, which again, the U.S. has never not medaled at a World Cup. We've made 3 finals in a row. We've made 5 finals in total. And again, we've never finished lower than 3rd place. So I think that should continue.
Just brute forcing your way to a medal, and then anything on top of that might be silver or gold. It's hilarious.
And Sophia Smith, Jarrett, they're elegant gazelles, not brute strength and force. I miss
Abby Wambach just like pulling a China shopping people, mostly because one of my favorite conversations to have had with Jason is Jason was at UGA when Wambach was at Florida, and how much he just did not like her, because even at Florida, like if you imagine what she was as a professional, one of the best strikers ever.
Yeah.
Imagine what she was doing in college.
Yeah. SEC story.
Just obliterating these random.
Did she and Heather Mitts overlap time at Florida? I feel like they did.
I feel like they probably did.
Because that's unfair. Heather Mitts probably the best U.S. women's player to never play in a World Cup, by the way.
True. Yeah. All right. So Wambach, 98 to 2001 at Florida.
Mitts had to have been around there.
Efforting. I'm efforting. And Heather Mitts, 96 to 99. So 98 99 overlap with Heather Mitts.
Jordan, yes, we're renting a camper van for New Zealand. We're flying into Sydney, then Sydney to Wellington, and from there we're doing camper van up and down the North Island.
Before we go, promo the 21st before you leave.
Absolutely. So July 21st, USA Vietnam. We'll be having a mega watch party over at Wild Heaven West End. You will hear the likes of Jarrett, John, Jason, and I think there might be another guest coming. She may or may not be a Charlotte radio personality. Maybe
she may or may not be the enemy for the next month.
Well, luckily in that game we don't play her, unlike in November when we were literally playing England. So I think Jess is coming. I'm pretty sure she is. We'll have a lot of fun there. I mean, look, the U.S. should the only thing we were missing in November was a goal. We should score some goals against Vietnam. So the party starts at 7 at Wild Heaven West End. They are doing their a custom beer for us called Mia and Brandy and Carly and Abby. It
is there brandy in the beer?
No, because this one's with an I, not a Y. Sorry.
Okay.
It's a Belgian Saison beer. That's all I know about it. So, but it'll be on tap there, and I think also available in cans there. And like I said, party starts at 7, kickoff is at 9. We'll have the garden room booked out. If you want to secure yourself an actual seat for the entire duration of the party, you can go find your tickets for the VIP section, which also gets you a free beer when you enter and a lot quicker access to beer throughout the match. Let's just put it that way. And then Abby is going to be doing some face painting before the match starts.
Yes.
So that'll be fun. We'll have some other vendors there as well. So again, 7 p.m., July 21st, which is 2 Fridays from now, USA Vietnam over at Wild Heaven West End. Hope to see y'all there.
Book 'em down to Aloha. So, all right. So then you're leaving, and then that's when you're going down.
I leave the 22nd, yes.
So he's going to be sleeping on the plane ride all the way down.
I'll have a lot of time to sleep on the plane. We leave our flight.
Do you know how long a plane ride is, John, from the United States to Australia?
It's 2 days, if not longer.
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
I would be sleeping too.
My flight from LA leaves at 11:55 p.m. on Saturday.
Okay.
So basically midnight Saturday. We land in Fiji Monday at 6 a.m.
Sweet.
And then we land in Sydney Monday at 10 p.m.
So
at least you get to break it up with Fiji, where you can.
We're doing a 15-hour layover in Fiji.
Darn,
dude, that's better than a straight shot.
Yes,
like that's better than just powering through.
See, now I didn't know this, but like I said, once you get settled and we figure out the time differences and everything, my guess is that if it's 14 hours, you're probably leading the show off at 9 o'clock our time, which would be 11 p.m. local. If it's 14 hours, if my math is right. When you got that 15-hour layover in Fiji, you've got to find Fiji national team gear.
I'm going to see what I can do. I mean, like I said, we got 15 hours. Who knows what my body clock will be like at that point?
Oh, you'll be
a nap on the beach will definitely happen that day.
Yeah, so you got that. Then obviously Bart's going to be discussing things from a U.S. national team perspective, and we mentioned that we're going to have Luke Winstall, who's going to be covering the home side.
I'll be at right now. I'm going to I got to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches, possibly 6, possibly 7.
Okay.
During my time there, so I'll also be doing some recaps, not recaps, but just like
yes, you will
about those games that I attended.
Or you did live.
One of those being the Japan-Spain match, which, as we just talked about, probably will decide that group and decide who the U.S. will play in the quarterfinals of the tournament.
Yep. So there's all of that. Bart, your homework assignment Wednesday at 10:30 for your normal time slot.
That sounds great to me.
To preview the semifinals, and then Thursday come back and review them, and requesting senior superlatives from the tournament, because we'll know our final 2 then. So your best 11, surprises, disappointments, could be teams, could be players. So basically it's the highlights of Bart from Gold Cup. So Senior Superlatives Day is Thursday.
All right. And
my guess is that you want to lead off on Thursday, or you want to sleep in?
Well, luckily it won't be too late of a night because the game kicks off at 7:30.
Mm-hmm. And you're not going to hang out late and keep an eye on the other semifinal, which I think is a 10:30 start.
I'll probably go home to watch that, but we'll see. We can do the early one. That's
all right. So,
fine with me.
All right. So Bart leads off after opening kickoff. So Bart goes after opening kickoff on Thursday. So Bart's at 10:30 Wednesday to preview everything. He comes on after opening kickoff, like 9:20ish, to discuss things on Thursday and break it all down, because we've got midweek whip around on Wednesday. We've got weekend whip around on Friday, because it's games all over the place.
For John, we also have Atlanta United on Wednesday.
That too. That's why it's a midweek whip. That's why it's a midweek whip around on Wednesday, because of the game in New England that we talked about. We'll talk about more of that tomorrow.
That's a you problem. I got NPSL all week.
Oh, that's true.
Oh.
And that's true. And we got it, Jarrett. I'm going to see if I can get Jack Marchant and Dale Parker from Revs and App to come on the show Tuesday or Wednesday morning and see if they can, or actually it'd have to be Tuesday. So it'd have to be Tuesday. See if they can come on.
Man, that's going to be a rock fight. Like Apotheos and Charlottetown. Like,
yeah,
that'll be
normal.
That'll be interesting, just because both games have gone the same way. Yep. But Revs and App is going to be a rock fight Wednesday night.
That is true. And we'll talk about that all week. USLW, NPSL, USL Championship, USL League One. We've got Gold Cup. We got stuff. Time to go because we've hit our 2 hours. Bart, send us home.
Mucha plata, y'all.
What he said. End of the show. That means we get to do this. We'll do it again tomorrow, 9:05.